May 11, 2015, the day after Game 4 of the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Chicago Bulls, and everybody's ripping on David Blatt, the coach of the Cavaliers. And the Cavs won the game. So why do they have to be so negative and go after Blatt? So I'd like to defend David Blatt. And, it might look on the surface like what he did, was stupid. And I'll admit that it's not the best, decisions. And he did make a mistake, but no one's perfect. And I want to, look into, why did he, make these mistakes? And, really look at, the positives instead of just the negatives. So, alright, the first thing they're getting on him about is that he tried to call a timeout when they didn't have any timeouts left at the end of the game. Now let's look at this. What happened was that they took 3 timeouts in a row, and that is why he probably didn't realize they were out of timeouts, because with 21 seconds left, the Cavaliers had 3 timeouts. But then they ended up having to burn those timeouts, and what happened was Jimmy Butler hit a 3-pointer for the Bulls to make the score 84-82 to bring the Bulls within 2 points. So now LeBron inbounds the ball, he gets the ball back, he brings it past half court, he calls timeout. So LeBron called the first timeout. They go into the huddle. Now they're inbounding the ball from half court, and James Jones is in charge of inbounding the ball. So James Jones gets the ball to J.R. Smith. J.R. Smith is now, got defenders all around him. He ends up collapsing to the ground and calling a timeout. That's the second timeout. So now James Jones has to inball the bound again. He can't inbound the ball because no one is open to pass the ball to. He calls the third timeout. So now they just used 3 timeouts in 3 seconds. Now that's how a coach could lose track of, hey, at 21 seconds you had 3 timeouts. At that point, like I said, LeBron called a timeout right when he brought the ball to half court. And then when J.R. Smith called a timeout when he was on the ground. But see, that third timeout happened without the ball coming into play. So I think that's maybe where he forgot that 3 timeouts had been called right there, because there was only really 2 actions: bringing the ball to half court, inbounding the ball to J.R. Smith. The third one happened with no play. And then when they actually did inbound it, James Jones inbounds it to LeBron James on this crazy pass that's up in the air all the way across the court from one side to the other, the width of the court. And LeBron gets it, and when he gets it, he's in an awkward position, kind of trapped in the corner of the half court, because if he goes across half court, it'll be a half court violation. So now he's got Dunleavy and Derrick Rose on top of him, and he ends up committing an offensive foul and turning the ball over. So they were having a lot of trouble with inbounding the ball, and that made them burn 3 timeouts right there. So David Blatt now, at the end there, when there was 8.4 seconds after Derrick Rose drove the lane and tied the game up at 84, LeBron then drives the whole length of the court, but while he's driving the length of the court, Blatt goes to call a timeout, but thankfully Tyrone Lue was like, no, we don't have a timeout, and he kind of wrapped his arms around him oh no, and the ref didn't see him. And I say thankfully because as a fan of basketball, that's not how you want to see the game come to a close. Even if you're going for the Bulls, you cannot want it to end with a coach or a player for that matter calling a timeout they don't have, getting the technical foul, and just winning on a technicality. That would be such a lame way to win. That's not winning. That's the other team losing by making a mistake. And like I said, no one's perfect. And I think it's understandable. I don't think they should be getting all on him. They just want to dump on David Blatt for some reason. And it's understandable that he could lose track when all that was happening at once, and the 3 timeouts in 3 seconds, and the way I just explained how it went down. And now, at this point, when LeBron he goes the length of the court because the timeout didn't happen, he comes under the hoop and he goes to lay it in, but it gets swatted out of bounds. Originally, they had 0.8 seconds, but once they reviewed it, they put 7/10 of a second on to make it 1.5 seconds. Now at this point, they went to a huddle, but before they go to the huddle, like right when it happens, like LeBron wanted the foul call. He wanted the foul call on the shot. They didn't give it to him. He seemed upset. He was visibly upset. He was excited. It was an exciting moment. I would have been acting the same myself. Now, Matthew Dellavedova went over to LeBron and said, hey, chill, we got to inbound it right here. I'm going to give you the ball. And then, boom, that's what we're doing. Point 8, I'm going to inbound it to you. We got this. You got this. You're the best player in the game. So Dellavedova says, LeBron, this is what we're doing. This is the play. But because of the review, now they went to the huddle. So now, because Dellavedova had went to inbound the ball, they had it all set up. But they went to the huddle because of the review. Now, Jeff Van Gundy, he's all saying on the, as a commentator for ABC, he was like, oh, I don't like this rule. They got to do something about this with the review. It's not fair. They get an extra timeout when right here they should be forced to stay on the court and not go to the huddle to drop a play. The thing about it is, so neither team had a timeout. They both got to go to the huddle, so it's fair for each. I mean, I guess you could say it works out more in the favor of the Cavs because of the fact that they have possession. But as it was anyway, the play that Blatt drew up, they scratched. Now that's the second point where they're getting on David Blatt because they're like, oh, not only did he make the mistake of almost calling a timeout, he also called for a bad play that they scratched. Now here's the thing, how can you say if it was bad when they didn't happen? And because LeBron made the shot and they won, of course now you're going to be like, hindsight's 20/20. And I mean, hey, if I'm writing it up, I'm giving it to LeBron too. And of course that seems like the obvious decision. But it's the obvious decision because that's us all just as, watching it. We're not coaches. The coaches make the decisions that aren't obvious. Not only that, here's the thing is that at least Blatt's humble enough to where if the player says, no, scratch that, he trusts his player and is like, okay, I trust you. You believe this. I'm going to go with you, LeBron. And that's why they work so well and have had so much success this year. But not only that, look at the play that Blatt had now. He wanted LeBron to inbound the ball, and it was like, oh, is he stupid? He wanted LeBron to inbound it. Well, hello. Earlier, the whole thing with the timeout, why did they call the 3 timeouts in 3 seconds where he almost called the timeout? Well, all that confusion was because they were having trouble inbounding the ball. Why were they in a tie game? Because they were having trouble inbounding the ball. Because once, they inbounded to JR, he had to call timeout. They had to burn the timeout when they inbound because they couldn't inbound it. And then when they did inbound it, LeBron gets called for an offensive foul. So now that's Blatt thinking like, okay, I want my best player inbounded so we can get a shot off. Even though obviously conventional wisdom would say, no, you give it to LeBron. That's how it is. That's just basketball is all about at that moment. Give it to your superstar. And we saw this week too the 3 buzzer beaters. We saw Derrick Rose on Friday, we saw Paul Pierce on Saturday, and we saw LeBron on Sunday. It was amazing. The thing is, I like that LeBron said no and scratched it. I like that Blatt was humble enough to go with it. And I don't, I'm not gonna dump on Blatt because the way it went down. I think that's just ridiculous. They won the game. And the reason, like I said, the 3 timeouts in 3 seconds, it's understandable. He's human. He made the mistake. Everyone makes a mistake and almost calls. Not every, it happens. People almost call timeouts sometimes, And like I said, luckily it went down the way, it should have went down in terms of the game just played itself out, because I really don't like to see it in the ref's hands on some technical thing like that ends up in a technical foul. That just sucks. This was much more exciting. Just like in Game 3, I'd much rather see Derrick Rose hit that 3-pointer than see him get fouled and take 3 foul shots to win it or something, I'd rather see an exciting moment. And that's what, basketball is all about. This is what playoffs are all about. And also in David Blatt's defense, look at the success they had all year. For some reason, it seems like as if they want to run David Blatt out of Cleveland, the media, I don't know why. I know that LeBron is getting along fine with them. And they won 20 more games this year with David Blatt as their coach. They only won 33 games last year, and they won 53 this year. Now, of course, LeBron James is also, with the Cavaliers. He's back in Cleveland, and that's a big reason why they won more games. But let's look at with the Heat. First off, though, with Cleveland, that's the third highest win total that Cleveland Cavaliers have had since LeBron entered the league. So they only had 2 other seasons with LeBron with more wins than they did in 2014, 2015 with David Blatt as the coach. So it's working out pretty good. Not only that, they actually have basically the same total as the Heat did last year. And the Miami Heat won one more game. They won 54 in 2013, 2014. And that was a Miami Heat team that went to the finals 4 years in a row and won twice. So, and in one of those years where they won it, they only won 46 games. So they've already won more games this year than the Miami Heat team that with the first time LeBron won with the Miami Heat. So, and that was the first time LeBron won a championship. So this team right here has every chance of doing that with David Blatt as the coach. And I really don't think it's fair for people to dump on them. Hey, guys make mistakes. They won the game. No reason to just defame and just try to dump on David Blatt. Everybody wants to always try to, be negative for some reason. But I think he's a good coach. And, people make mistakes. So I just wanted to defend him. I didn't think it was fair. So I just wanted, in his defense, try to explain why those mistakes may have happened. But let me know what you think in the comment section below. If you think it was fair, the criticisms of David Blatt, or if you have your own criticisms of him, or if you thought that maybe it was a little bit unfair and that he actually is a good coach. Either way, let me know in the comment section below. Definitely interested to read your thoughts and opinions. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and had a great weekend, and enjoy all the sports.